Night was falling over Manila, the capital of the Philippines, as Manny Pacquiao drove his modest car through the busy streets after a long day of training. The famous Filipino boxer, senator, and philanthropist was tired but satisfied with the work he had done at the gym. His thoughts wandered between his political responsibilities and the social projects he coordinated in various regions of the country. The rain began to fall softly, forming puddles on the irregular sidewalks of the Quiapo district. Manny decided to stop at a small convenience store to buy water before heading home, where his wife Jinky and their children were waiting. He parked the car and walked quickly to avoid getting wet, pulling his cap down in an attempt not to be recognized by passers-by. As he left the store, his eyes captured an unusual scene on the opposite corner. A dark-skinned girl, visibly non-Filipino, was sitting on the sidewalk, sheltering from the rain under a piece of cardboard. She appeared to be approximately 12 years old, with short curly hair, wearing simple and worn clothes that betrayed her precarious situation. Manny felt a tightness in his chest, instantly remembering his own childhood of extreme poverty in General Santos City, when he often slept on the streets or in cardboard boxes. He observed how people passed by the girl without noticing her, as if she were invisible in the urban landscape, while she hugged a small, tattered backpack against her chest, her only apparent possession. With a heavy heart, Manny crossed the street toward the girl, completely forgetting about the rain that was now wetting his shoulders. He approached carefully, aware that he might frighten her, and crouched down beside her, noticing her large brown eyes watching him with a mixture of fear and distrust, but also with a glimmer of recognition that indicated she knew who he was. The girl shrank slightly when Manny approached, but something in the boxer's gentle gaze made her stay where she was. Her name was Amara, a young refugee from Uganda who had arrived in the Philippines just 3 months ago with her mother, Namono, in search of a better life. The journey had been arduous and full of sacrifices, but the worst happened when her mother fell seriously ill 2 weeks ago and was admitted to Manila General Hospital, with no money to pay for a place to sleep and with the few resources saved. To buy medicine for her mother, Amara had chosen the streets as her temporary home. She explained her situation to Manny without dramatics, with a maturity that contrasted with her age, describing how she visited her mother every day at the hospital and then wandered the city until finding a minimally safe place to spend the night. Manny listened attentively to Amara's story, feeling increasingly moved by the girl's resilience. At that moment, he wasn't the world boxing champion or the respected senator, but just a human being faced with a child's suffering. Without hesitation, he offered immediate help, promising that she would no longer need to sleep on the streets. With a gentleness that characterized his actions outside the ring, Manny invited Amara to get into his car, assuring her that he would take her to the hospital to see her mother and then resolve the situation for both of them. Initially hesitant, the girl eventually accepted after perceiving the sincerity in the boxer's words, recognizing in him not just the celebrity she occasionally saw on posters around the city, but someone who truly cared. As he drove toward the hospital, Manny made a few calls, mobilizing his personal team to prepare to help Amara and her mother. He observed through the rearview mirror how the girl looked out the window with an expression that mixed hope and disbelief, as if she were living a dream from which she feared waking at any moment. Manila General Hospital was crowded when Manny and Amara arrived. The packed corridors and the characteristic smell of medications created an oppressive atmosphere. Nurses and doctors moved hurriedly among the patients, many of them lying on improvised stretchers due to the lack of available beds. Namono, Amara's mother, was in a community ward, sharing the space with 15 other patients. Upon seeing her daughter accompanied by the famous boxer, Namono's tired eyes widened in surprise. She was visibly debilitated, with her braided hair disheveled and her once bright skin now dull from illness. The diagnosis was pneumonia aggravated by tuberculosis, a treatable condition, but one that required expensive medications and intensive care that were beyond their financial possibilities as refugees. Manny spoke briefly with the doctor in charge, Dr. Rizal Mendoza, who explained Namono's clinical situation with professional frankness. The treatment was progressing slowly due to resource limitations, But with the proper medications and better conditions, complete recovery was possible. The boxer listened attentively, asking pertinent questions that surprised the doctor, accustomed to seeing celebrities showing superficial interest in social causes. Without fanfare or seeking recognition, Manny informed them that he would cover all of Namono's medical expenses and arrange for her transfer to a private room with the best care available. He also explained that his foundation, the Pacquiao Foundation, would ensure that mother and daughter had an adequate place to live after hospital discharge, as well as help to regularize their situation as refugees in the country. The news hit Namono like a wave of emotion, causing silent tears to run down her thin face. She tried to express her gratitude, but words seemed insufficient in the face of the magnitude of that gesture. Amara, meanwhile, remained by her mother's side, holding her hand tightly. While trying to process how her life had completely changed in the space of a few hours, thanks to the casual encounter with someone many considered a national hero. The next morning, Namono's transfer to St. Luke's Hospital, one of the best medical institutions in Manila, happened without complications. The medical team, led by Dr. Maria Isabel Santos, a specialist in respiratory diseases, took on the case with special dedication. The new room was spacious, well-lit, and equipped with modern technology, a stark contrast to the previous facilities. Amara observed everything with wide eyes, still trying to comprehend the dimension of the change in their lives. She had spent the night in a small apartment, maintained by Manny's Foundation for Emergency Situations, where she took a hot shower, wore clean clothes, and slept in a comfortable bed for the first time in weeks. The social worker Ligaya Reyes, assigned by Manny to follow the case, remained by her side the entire time, ensuring she felt safe. Meanwhile, Manny worked behind the scenes, activating contacts in the immigration department to regularize the situation of the Ugandan refugees. He discovered that Namono was an English teacher in her native country, forced to flee due to political persecution after her husband, a journalist critical of the government, had been murdered. The story deeply touched the boxer, who saw in the educator and her daughter the reflection of thousands of people seeking a second chance in foreign lands. That afternoon, Manny visited the hospital again, this time accompanied by his wife Jinky. The couple brought new clothes for Amara and gifts to cheer Namono during her recovery. The conversation flowed naturally, revealing commonalities between the two families, despite drastically different contexts. Love for their children, the importance of education, and faith as a pillar of support in difficult times. Before leaving, Manny invited Amara to visit his community center in Sampaloc, where children from underprivileged families received education, food, and sports training. He explained that the girl could attend classes while her mother recovered, and that she might even discover some sporting or artistic talent that she could develop. Amara's shy smile was the first genuine demonstration of happiness since Manny had found her on the street, a small sign that the future was beginning to take on new colors. The Pacquiao Community Center in Sampaloc was an oasis of opportunities in the midst of one of Manila's poorest neighborhoods. Built with the earnings from his boxing matches, the space offered much more than basic assistance. It was a true catalyst for social transformation. When Amara arrived for the first time, accompanied by Ligaya, she was greeted by a diverse group of children and adolescents, all wearing blue shirts with the foundation's logo. Although initially shy and reserved, Amara soon found herself participating in educational activities under the guidance of teacher Elena Bonifacio, a dedicated educator who adapted the program to include the new student. Language barriers were quickly overcome, as Amara spoke fluent English thanks to her mother's teachings, and the Filipino children showed curiosity and openness to learn about her culture and history. During the following weeks, while Namono responded positively to intensive medical treatment, Amara flourished at the community center. Her natural ability for running caught the attention of Fernando Magsaysay, the athletics coach, who saw extraordinary potential in the Ugandan girl. With long legs and impressive endurance, she began to stand out on the improvised tracks, breaking internal records and earning the respect of her peers. Manny visited the center regularly, observing with satisfaction Amara's progress. During one of these visits, he brought along Jun Alabastro, a photographer friend who documented the Foundation's social projects. The images captured that day, Amara running with determination, her eyes focused on the horizon, would later be used in an awareness campaign about refugees in the Philippines, giving visibility to a frequently neglected cause. The bond between Manny and Amara strengthened with each meeting, based not on charity or pity, but on mutual respect and a shared understanding of how adversity can forge character. The boxer saw in the girl the same resilience that had sustained him during his own journey from extreme poverty to world stardom, while Amara found in the former champion a model of overcoming that transcended cultural and racial barriers. After 2 months of intensive treatment, Namono was discharged from the hospital, completely recovered from pneumonia and with tuberculosis under control. Manny, fulfilling his promise, had prepared a modest but comfortable apartment near the community center for mother and daughter to restart their lives. The property, furnished with the essentials and decorated with welcoming touches selected by Jinky, awaited its new occupants. The transition to the new home was a moment of profound emotion for the Ugandan refugees. Namono, with tears in her eyes, walked through each room, touching the furniture, as if verifying the reality of that improbable dream. Amara, in turn, marveled at her own room, a space she had never had even in Uganda, decorated with vibrant colors and a small bookshelf, already filled with books in English and Tagalog, the local language she was beginning to learn. With her health restored, Namono was invited by Manny to join the team of educators at the community center, where her experience as a teacher and fluency in English would be valuable for the children. The proposal came accompanied by the news that their refugee documents had been approved, guaranteeing legal permanence in the Philippines and the right to work. The opportunity to resume her vocation and contribute to the society that had welcomed them represented for Namono much more than financial security. It was the restoration of her dignity. Meanwhile, Amara's talent for athletics continued to develop under the guidance of professional coaches hired by the Foundation. Her times in middle-distance events consistently improved, attracting the attention of sports scouts. Manny, who always believed in the transformative power of sports, organized her participation in local youth competitions, where the Ugandan girl began to build a name in the Filipino athletic scene. On a special afternoon, Manny invited mother and daughter to meet his complete family for a meal at his home. The gathering, away from the media's gaze, was marked by simplicity and genuine affection. The Pacquiao children played with Amara as if they were longtime friends, while Jinky and Namono shared stories about motherhood and cultural adaptation. Observing the scene, Manny silently reflected on how small gestures of compassion could trigger profound transformations, not only for those receiving help, but also for those offering it. A year passed since that rainy night in Quiapo, bringing significant changes for everyone involved. Amara, now 13, had become a promising athlete, accumulating medals in school and regional competitions. Her story of overcoming, discreetly shared by Manny's foundation with Namono's authorization, inspired other refugee children to seek opportunities through sports. Namono, for her part, coordinated a new educational program at the Pacquiao Center, focused on integrating immigrant and refugee children into the Filipino educational system. Her personal experience and cultural sensitivity transformed her into an important voice for welcoming policies, occasionally being invited to lectures at universities and forums on human rights. The trauma of the past had not disappeared, but had found a greater purpose through work with young people in similar situations. Manny, always attentive to the development of the project he had impulsively initiated that night, decided to expand the initiative, creating a specific department in his Foundation for Refugee Assistance. He hired specialists in international law, social workers and psychologists to offer complete support to displaced families, using Amara and Namono's story as proof that investing in seemingly forgotten lives could generate extraordinary results. The press eventually discovered the story, especially after Amara won an important national athletics competition representing her school. Journalists sought sensationalist angles, but Manny protected mother and daughter from excessive exposure, allowing only controlled interviews that emphasized the refugee cause instead of his own generosity. At every opportunity, he emphasized that the true merit lay in Amara's determination and Namono's strength. In a discreet ceremony at the community center, Manny announced the creation of a scholarship fund for talented young refugees named after Amara. The first beneficiary would be the Ugandan girl herself, who would receive a complete university education when the time came. The news caught Amara by surprise, causing her to embrace the boxer with a spontaneity that moved everyone present, a simple gesture that said more than any elaborate speech. 5 years passed, transforming that casual encounter into a story of lasting impact. Amara, now 17, was preparing to compete in the Olympic qualifiers, representing the Philippines in the youth athletics category. Her transformation from a refugee girl sleeping on the streets to an elite athlete symbolized the hidden potential in so many children marginalized by society. Namono had become a respected educator and activist for refugee rights, publishing academic articles on cultural integration and keeping her husband's memory alive through her work for social justice. She and Amara now lived in their own home, acquired with their combined salaries, a symbol of independence achieved with dignity after the initial boost offered by Manny. The Refugee Assistance Program of the Pacquiao Foundation had expanded to other Filipino cities and served as a model for similar initiatives in neighboring countries. More than 200 families had been directly benefited, receiving not just emergency aid, but real opportunities for life reconstruction. Educational documentaries produced by the foundation circulated in schools, combating prejudices and promoting empathy among young Filipinos. Manny, even after ending his boxing career and with an increasingly demanding political agenda, maintained regular contact with Amara and Namono, considering them part of his extended family. In interviews, when questioned about his greatest achievements, he frequently mentioned how the encounter with a girl sleeping on the street had transformed his perspective on social responsibility and the true meaning of success. On the eve of an important qualifying competition, Amara visited the exact spot in Quiapo where she had been found by Manny years before. The sidewalk remained the same, indifferent to the transformation that had occurred in the life of the one who once sought shelter there. With tears in her eyes, the young athlete made a silent promise that each medal won, each record broken, would be dedicated not only to her mother and to Manny, but to all the children who still slept on the streets, waiting for a chance to show the world their true potential. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to our channel.